on, and it's going to be a great Friday. I'm very excited about Rampage tonight. Thanks for having me on.
Congratulations. Absolutely. Congratulations on a monster rating this past Wednesday.
I honestly, you're very kind. It's huge, and it's all because of the great fans of AEW and the great staff of AEW and our awesome wrestlers. We have worked really hard, and I think to finally be able to say that we had the number one wrestling show on cable for the week in the entire world of wrestling, it's pretty amazing. We've been the number one show on Wednesday night, and that's one of our big goals from we set out was to win our time slot, win our night. But certainly, this is a big milestone, and it's the biggest audience we've had since our debut, and it really shows how far we've come. It shows how big the audience for wrestling is right now, that there are multiple nights of the week where wrestling is the number one show of the week. And last week was a great week for us too. I think we've really been doing some great stuff on Friday nights too. So a lot of big news in AEW, and it's great to be able to tell you guys that our pay-per-view did well over 200,000 buys. Wow. Which is a big milestone that nobody had hit in this country for a long time. So it's pretty special week for AEW. And then we're going to end it the right way tonight with AEW Rampage. And there's some matches on the show. There's some action on the show tonight that people have been waiting for a really long time. I think Andrade El Idolo versus Pac tonight has the potential to be one of those very special television matches. And we've had some great matches in the short history of AEW Rampage already. But I think Pac versus Andrade El Idolo is one of the most anticipated matches we've ever had.
Tony, I'm looking forward to that match as well. The social media has been buzzing. I mean, really, really buzzing about the crowd experience. And like the crowds have been tremendous. You coming out and greeting the crowd, I think, is something that, as a fan, I've grown to love, and I think that the other fans, are you going to continue to keep addressing the crowd and greeting them the way that you do?
Well, I really, yes, probably I will, but it's not a big part of the show, in my opinion. It's really just one of those little side parts of the show that, I do really to keep the action going when we're not live. We do a live show every week, and we also tape some great content. And I just like to tell people what's going on, what the order of events is, and thank the fans for coming in. But to me, I mean, the key action and the reason everyone's there is to watch the great wrestling. And I think tonight we've got really, really good action on the card on Rampage. And Mark, you're going to be a big part of it tonight. I mentioned Pac versus Andrade El Idolo, and you and Excalibur being out this week. I think we've got a little bit of a different team with JR and Taz working with you, and Tony Schiavone's going to be there tonight. And I think it's going to be a really special match with Pac versus Andrade. It's been a very long time coming. It's been building for a long time. And we had such a great pay-per-view card this past weekend. We did our biggest numbers of all time. This was originally going to be part of the card. I was glad to be able to give the fans advance notice, let them know that we were going to move this match to Rampage. And now I think it's going to pay off. Tonight, we have something for the fans to really look forward to tonight on TNT at 10 o'clock, a match people have been wanting to see for a really long time. Two of the top stars in AEW. It's going to be an awesome match, bell to bell, but it's also settling a big score between these two guys. And I think that's kind of a theme of the night. There's a bunch of scores that are going to be settled tonight on Rampage. Also very excited about the breakout of Brian Pillman Jr. in the past week. And how awesome was it? I'm sure you guys enjoyed it too, to see Brian Pillman Jr. in his hometown of Cincinnati really have that breakout moment, standing up for his family, and I think breaking through as a national TV star.
He definitely has the potential to be a big star. He wants to be successful, and a lot of people are not willing to take the chance. They just want to get by or just hover around and just be happy to be in the party. But he's one of those that's got a lot of ambition. I love that guy's energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And, MJF really pulled it out of him. I mean, he absolutely.
Hard not to after words like that. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know, Dave, there's no loss between you and MJF,
No.
to say the least.
Now you know
so
why.
I'm sure you enjoyed.
Now you know why. Because he is a bad human being. There is no doubt about it. And you know what it is, and sometimes it's for the bad, like an MJF, but sometimes it's for the good, Tony. And we talked to Ruby Soho earlier in the show, and we saw her emotions in the media scrum after All Out. She did get emotional about that moment and what was, I thought, an amazing Casino Battle Royale on Sunday. And as Mark and I are talking to her, she got emotional too, because she talked about anxiety and expectations where she used to work and how she couldn't really be herself. But now she's in an environment where she can be herself. She can be the individual who she is. Like, when you hear those words, Tony, and the environment that you have made in AEW, how proud are you to hear words like the ones that we heard from Ruby this morning?
It's so cool. I really, really have enjoyed working with Ruby in this short time. She was amazing in the Casino Battle Royale. I mentioned in the scrum, it was, a lot of conversations between the two of us that led to her signing in AEW. But the first time we ever actually met in person was on Sunday at All Out. And, it was our first time working together. I was also the agent on the Casino Battle Royale. So I worked with all 21 women in the match. And I just have to say, what a organized, intelligent, competent professional Ruby Soho is. She was really well prepared. She had notes on everyone in the match. She knew what she was doing. And I thought, wow, this is a really hardworking person, and also just a really, really good person who clearly has a lot of integrity and a lot of pride in what they do. But she interacted really well with everyone. And it was her first day at AEW. And she really, really is a great fit, I think. And her Dynamite debut was tremendous. She had a great debut match against Jamie Hayter. And I thought that based on how that match ended, you saw Riho and Chris Statlander come to the defense of Ruby Soho. And I thought it would make for a great trios match tonight on Rampage. So tonight on Rampage, we'll have, the former women's champion Riho, Chris Statlander, and the number one contender Ruby Soho all teaming up against Dr. Britt Baker and her friends, Jamie Hayter and Rebel. I think it's going to be really, really awesome trios action. And again, big score getting settled tonight on AEW Rampage.
Yeah, Tony, hearing that you put that Casino Battle Royale together this past Sunday at All Out, what was that feeling like for you, that final sequence in that match with Ruby Soho and Thunder Rosa? Because here are two women, and there was a lot of talk early on with AEW in their women's division, but you had, 11,000 plus fans chanting for Ruby and chanting for Thunder Rosa. That final sequence, the fans were on their feet. What was the feeling like for you when you saw that play out on Sunday?
It felt great, but it was also not surprising at all. I really expected that, and everybody lived up. There were really high expectations on this show. So when everything was really good, it was also not a surprise because we expected it to be an awesome show. And I really believed this match was going to deliver. I thought the roster really showed how far they've come. And that was kind of a theme of this pay-per-view, how great the roster is, how far we've developed as a company. And each year, I think All Out has gotten better and stronger as a show. This was the strongest All Out we've done, and it's just the strongest pay-per-view we've done. And that Women's Casino Battle Royale, the final group that was out there, just tremendous. When you looked around the ring, the final 8 or so, faces out there, just a bunch of big stars. And there was some real questions about who were going to win. And when you heard Ruby Soho, the crowd was thrilled that she's debuting. They were really into her. Ruby Soho is very over. The song is very over, and the person is very over. And Thunder Rosa, what a great star she's become. Nyla Rose, former women's champion, always going to be a threat in these matches. And she won the first women's casino battle royale, and is always going to be a very serious threat, and wants to be the champion again. And you had Ty Conte and Penelope all through the match. Really, you saw that Anna Jay and the Bunny early on had gotten into it. The Bunny was out there first, and then we saw Anna Jay out, and they immediately went at it. Penelope came in the third wave and made it a 2-on-1 situation. And then Ty Conti was out there to even up the odds and help her friend Anna Jay throughout the match. That was pretty crazy. And Ty and Penelope made it very late in the match, and they were both out there pretty late. And of course, Jamie Hayter and Red Velvet had a big presence in the match too. And so, a lot of great stars out there. And of course, Jade Cargill. We saw that she and Nyla Rose had made an alliance kind of to throw a lot of the women out. They did accomplish that. They threw a lot of the women out, but the alliance was short lived. And, Jade herself got thrown out by Nyla. So, really left a lot of questions, and we have a great number one contender with Ruby Soho, but also a lot of stories and a lot of interesting matches on the table. So I thought that was a excellent part of the pay-per-view. And I think it's going to be a great trios match tonight on Rampage on TNT.
Wow, Tony, I'm excited about this Jade Cargill, Nyla Rose kind of, tension. Like I love tension. I'm not really a shit disturber, but I will sit back in the cut and watch people get into
it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's something I think we all want to see. And, we can't forget that there's a lot of other angry people at both of them too, because not only did they leave mad at each other, but I think there's some other open wounds as they each eliminated a lot of people in the match also.
Yeah.
So it leaves a lot of interesting possibilities for sure.
Next week, and I mentioned to you the last time you were on, my brother, who hasn't gone to a show since 1984, is coming with me next week. We're going to be at the Rock at the Prudential Center for AEW. And it's the first time that AEW is coming to the tri-state area. 2 big shows back to back for Dynamite, one in Newark, New Jersey, the other one's in Queens. What was it like coming to the tri-state area for you?
Well, let's find out. I'm pretty excited about it. It's definitely another big milestone for us. This is a show we've wanted to do for a really long time. Tonight is going to be very important to have a great Rampage tonight, and then we'll get through this show and really focus on next week in Newark. It's going to be a great card on Dynamite with Darby Allin coming back to face Shawn Spears. We'll hear from Darby tonight on Rampage. He'll be out in the ring, and he's coming out with Sting, and they're going to address the stuff that Tully Blanchard said about Sting, which really I thought was pretty exciting, and really gave me goosebumps personally to hear Tully Blanchard calling out Sting and talking about their long history with each other. So I'm very eager to see how that goes tonight, and really looking forward to the Shawn Spears versus Darby Allin match next Wednesday.
Looking at All Out, and you talk about the stars and the stars that are being made in AEW, would you ever have thought that you would had a pay-per-view, had the biggest buys that you got, and like you said, over 200,000 buys for All Out, and not have Cody on the card, not have Hangman Page on the card? It's unbelievable what you've been able to do and still have stars that were not able to be on the show this past Sunday.
Well, I think, there are some of our great stars that were not around and not available, but there's also a lot of great stars that came in and helped make this such an incredible success for us. I have to thank once again CM Punk. He came back. His comeback match was incredible. He's exceeded every expectation anybody could have had from him, however you want to slice it. What he's done for our attendance, our record TV ratings, our record pay-per-view buys. We set a live attendance mark in Chicago. We've set all kinds of new merchandising records. We sold over 100,000 CM Punk shirts. We've sold thousands and thousands and thousands of ice cream bars since he started giving those away. He's absolutely changed our business. And that was the expectation when he came in. I spent years literally talking to CM Punk, talking to him about AEW, what it could be and how much it would mean to us if he would come back to the ring in AEW. And he's doing it. And like I said, it's not one of those part-time comebacks where the guy's going to do a pay-per-view match and then he's going to leave and you're not going to see him again for 5 years. He's here. He's here every week. He's wrestling and he cares about the wrestling. He cares about the wrestlers. He's working with people on their matches. He's giving people ideas. He's offering himself as a selfless person. And you just couldn't ask for any more than what he's doing for us right now. And the match he had in his comeback, I mean, Darby and CM Punk really delivered. That was a great, great wrestling match. And there was really something for everybody on the card. So I'm not surprised the show did our record buy rate. And I really planned for it and worked hard for well over a year putting this card together and had this date circled on the calendar for a long time is when I really believed we would begin a new era in AEW. It really started this past month with the launch of Rampage. And then, of course, the First Dance, which helped lead into All Out and the debut of CM Punk, which was a huge moment for us. And then ended the show with the debuts of Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole. And speaking of AEW Rampage tonight, we're going to hear from both of those guys, Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson, tonight on Rampage. I hadn't really announced this yet, but our countdown crew, they do a great, great job. They put awesome videos together. They're interviewing both guys, Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole, separately about why they joined AEW, what their intentions are here. And we're going to hear from both guys, and they're putting something awesome together for us tonight. And they do an awesome job on these videos. And I'm excited to hear what Danielson and, of course, Adam Cole have to say, because these are two of the greatest wrestlers in the world. In my opinion, in our competition, these were their two best bell-to-bell wrestlers. I think if there were three people from that company you could have taken and you put a gun to my head, there's no question these would have been the two. And I do think these would have also been the two people that would be the best fit here. And so I really, a year out, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, if you'd asked me, could I get two people from the other side to come over and join AEW? Absolutely. It would have been Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole. And I think they're going to be perfect fits here. They've each gone kind of separate ways. They're on opposite sides of the fence in terms of what their plans are, how they've aligned themselves in AEW, how they're carrying themselves. But I think that's great. And really, it makes it a very exciting situation for the fans. The battle lines had already been drawn for All Out. And clearly people liked what they saw, because not only was it our biggest pay-per-view ever, our most viewership, our most pay-per-view purchases, and a huge live attendance, huge demand for that ticket. But then the response we saw afterwards was the most favorable fan response we've ever gotten for any event we've presented. And then to come back, and we've done 100 episodes of Dynamite. Episode 101, we post this record rating. We hit a new milestone in the competition. It's all trending up. And I have to thank CM Punk for the huge success of All Out and our huge TV success. I have to thank Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole for being a huge part of that TV success. And I really have to thank everybody who's been in AEW this whole time. We have a great, great roster that helped make this possible, helped us build for the past couple of years. We're approaching a 2-year anniversary show in a few weeks. Yep. And it's a great milestone. And the women and men that made this possible, wrestling on the show for the last couple of years, helped us build a great baseline, helped us navigate a global pandemic, keep the show on the air. And now The fans are back. The shows are better than ever. We have Rampage tonight on TNT, and it's just the hottest week AEW's ever had. And I'd like to keep it going into next week and the week after. And, you asked me about coming up to Newark and then New York City and doing these shows in the tri-state area. We couldn't have timed it any better. The company's hotter than it's ever been. We've been waiting to come up there and present AEW to New York and New Jersey for a long time. And we're finally going to do it next week and the week after.
It's funny with all those accomplishments and everything you have done over the last couple of weeks, especially maybe the biggest thing, Tony, and I know you would appreciate this as a longtime pro wrestling fan. You actually got Jim Cornette to start liking AEW. He's actually complimenting AEW, which I never thought would happen. You got it. You're getting love from everybody, Tony.
Well, to be fair to him, these are his opinions. He says what he thinks. And there's stuff on the shows he's liked before, and there's stuff he hasn't liked. And I think it's still like that. He's not saying he loves everything on the show. But he acknowledged a lot of great stuff that's happened. What really tickled me and I thought was very cool was his line about CM Punk's arrival, about his debut appearance in AEW on The First Dance. And I'll never forget it. His exact quote was, "Well, it wasn't what I would have done. It was a lot better. It was perfect." And I thought that was awesome. And it was very fair of him, because I think it was our perfect moment, and it was very cool of him to say. And he's been very fair recently with the stuff he said. And I think that's great. I really admire him and have looked up to him since I was a small kid. And I don't know if I would be doing this without him, because there are no textbooks on how to be a wrestling promoter. There is no college classes for it. So when I was going to school and when I was going to University of Illinois Laboratory High School and then University of Illinois for college, those interviews he used to do, he would sit around for 4 hours plus with the smart fans talking, and guys would tape it with a camcorder. The quality was terrible, but the audio is what was really important. And he would talk and tell stories about being a wrestling promoter. The Forbidden Door is something that is an important part of AEW, the ability to bring in stars from the outside, or our stars traveling to other promotions, winning titles, putting on dream matches. It's very cool, but it's not a completely new concept, the idea of companies working together. And that's something I learned listening to him. Vince McMahon Sr. really was very diplomatic about working with other wrestling companies. Andre the Giant was a great political asset for him. And Andre the Giant traveled, and Vince Sr. did business with a lot of these other promoters and had a pretty decent relationship for a long time. And there's no reason that can't be done again. And there's just a lot about wrestling history that he knows and he's put into the world. And I think a lot of us don't necessarily agree with all of his opinions. And clearly he doesn't agree with everything he sees on our show, but he's got a lot of fans for a reason. And it's cool to see he's really enjoying some of the stuff he sees on the shows. And I don't think anybody can argue with his success. He's an intelligent person. And look, we're doing great. Dynamite has been a huge, huge success, especially recently. It's 3 straight weeks that we're the number one show on all of cable. And that's not our first 3-week streak in the last couple months.
Yeah.
That's it's getting to be a pretty regular thing. It's happened a lot, and I never take it for granted. Anytime we're number one, I'm very, very, very happy. But thankfully, we've done it a lot of times this year. And now Rampage has also posted those big numbers. We even got a great number last week for the Countdown to All Out, which ranked in the top 10 shows for the week. And it's on at 11 p.m. on a Friday. So it's to say our audience is loyal and was hungry for AEW, it's an understatement. And this is all happening thanks to the wrestling fans who were waiting for something like this for a long time. There have been other wrestling companies out there, and there are still other wrestling companies out there, but wrestling fans can smell BS. Okay. They know when something's real, when something's on the up and up. And there was just never a company that had a real chance to take over, that it could really compete, that fans could look at it and say, this is an A-plus product, that they have top wrestlers. They put on great matches, great shows. They have great production values. Frankly, our competition is WWE. AEW and WWE are the two companies that have strong national television presence, huge production values, and huge stars. And for us, I think it's an apples to orange comparison, maybe, but there's nobody else even in the ballpark in terms of what they offer to the fans. And I think that's an important distinction. There's a lot of other great wrestling companies out there that we support and help out. They put on great shows, but as far as their TV penetration, as far as the size, the scope of the shows, it's different.
Tony, right now you're knocking it out of the park. And don't forget Rampage tonight, 10 p.m.